In the open ocean, death is supposed to be simple. A fin closes in, a current pulls you apart, a winter of hunger arrives. Most lives here are brief, bright, fragile sparks in a dark, endless sea. And then there's a jellyfish so small you could lose it in a spoonful of water. Transparent, unassuming, almost forgettable, until it does something no animal is supposed to do. It goes backwards, not in space, in time. Its name is Turritopsis dohrnii, often called the immortal jellyfish. Not because it can't be killed. It can. A fish can eat it. A disease can take it. A net can crush it. But if it escapes those endings, and if the conditions are right, this jellyfish can step away from death. To understand how unsettling that is, you have to picture the normal life of a jellyfish. It begins as an egg, fertilized in open water. It becomes a tiny, drifting larva, barely more than a living comma. Then it sinks, finds a hard surface, rock shell, dock piling, and attaches itself. Here it transforms. A polyp. It's not graceful. It's not free. It's a small stalk with a mouth, like a living flower fixed to the sea's skin. And from this rooted form, it buds. Clones of itself. New bodies. New jellyfish. Soon, a mature medusa floats away, bell pulsing, tentacles trailing like threads of electricity. This is where the story usually ends. The jellyfish reproduces, weakens, breaks down. Life completes its circle. But Turritopsis dohrnii, when injured, starved, or stressed, does something that reads like a mistake in nature's code. Instead of dying, it collapses. Its bell crumples inward. Its tentacles shrink. It sinks to the seafloor like a soft, clear tear. And then, it turns into something else. Not a corpse. A new beginning. It forms a cyst, an armored little capsule of living tissue. Inside, cells reorganize. Structures dissolve and reappear. The animal seems to undo itself. Days later, from that cyst, a polyp grows, once again anchored, feeding, budding. A mature jellyfish, returning to childhood. This isn't a myth. It's been observed in laboratories, described in scientific papers, repeated in controlled conditions. And still, it feels impossible, because almost all animals are bound to a one-way direction. Development forward, aging forward, deterioration forward. We call that direction time. Biology agrees. But here, at least in a small corner of the tree of life, time becomes negotiable. So how was it found? Not with a grand expedition. Not with a dramatic discovery on a stormy deck. Often, the immortal jellyfish appears the way many scientific mysteries begin. As an accident. In the late 20th century, marine biologists collecting jellyfish larvae and polyps noticed something strange. Cultures that should have failed didn't. Medusae that should have died reappeared as polyps. At first, it looked like contamination. A mix-up, a labeling error. But the pattern remained. One animal, two forms, a reversal. Why would evolution build this? What advantage is there in undoing a body? The ocean is not kind to the weak. A jellyfish is mostly water, mostly vulnerability. Yet this species carries a hidden emergency exit, a biological retreat, a way to fold itself back into the safer, rooted stage. Not immortality like a fantasy. Something colder, stranger, a survival strategy written at the cellular level. And once you accept that it can happen, a deeper unease follows. Because the question shifts. Not is it real, but what does it mean that an animal can, under pressure, rewrite its own life stage? To the cells that forget what they are and become something else. And to a process with a name that sounds like science fiction, but isn't. Transdifferentiation. The jellyfish's method for turning time around. To reverse a life, you have to break the rules of identity. In your body, most cells are specialists. A nerve cell is a nerve cell. A muscle cell is a muscle cell. They carry the same DNA, but they live different destinies. And once they commit, they rarely return. That commitment is what makes complex animals possible. It's also what makes aging irreversible. But Turritopsis dohrnii is built differently. When stress hits, injury, starvation, sudden change in temperature, or salinity. The jellyfish doesn't just heal. It reorganizes. Imagine a house collapsing into a pile of materials and then rebuilding itself as a different kind of house. That is what happens in the jellyfish's body. Its umbrella, its bell, contracts and folds. The delicate tissues that once pulsed through open water begin to break down, but they don't decay into nothing. They convert. Inside the cyst stage, the animal cells begin a transformation that biologists call transdifferentiation. One mature cell type changing directly into another. In other words, a cell that had one job gives up its identity and takes on a new role. This is rare in most animals. In humans, it's a frontier researchers chase with stem cells and genetic reprogramming. In this jellyfish, it happens naturally. Cells from the medusa stage, part of swimming structures, tentacles, sensory tissues, shift into the cell types needed for the polyp. Feeding structures, stolons, budding zones. No new egg, no mating, no fresh start from scratch. A living body dismantles itself and rebuilds. How? Part of the answer lies in the jellyfish's simplicity. Cnidarians, jellyfish, corals, sea anemones, split from our lineage long ago. Their bodies are organized in fewer layers, fewer specialized organs. They don't have bones, lungs, kidneys, or centralized brain. That doesn't make them primitive. It makes them flexible. Their cells can be more willing to change. Their developmental programs can be reactivated. But flexibility alone isn't enough to explain the scale of this reversal. So scientists looked closer. They began comparing genes, proteins, and patterns of expression between Turritopsis dohrnii and its close relatives, species that cannot reset their life stage so completely. And what they found was not one single immortality gene. It was a network, a chorus of molecular switches. Genes involved in DNA repair. Genes involved in maintaining telomeres. The protective caps on chromosomes that, in many animals, erode with age. Genes involved in stress response and protein maintenance. And perhaps most important, genes involved in controlling development. The ancient pathways that tell cells what to become. But the mystery is not solved by listing pathways, because the act itself is still astonishing. During transdifferentiation, a cell must change its entire pattern of behavior. It must switch which genes are active. It must reorganize its internal scaffolding. It must adopt a new shape, new chemistry, new purpose. In your body, forcing that change is dangerous. Cells that forget what they are can become cancerous. So why doesn't the immortal jellyfish dissolve into chaos? We don't fully know. The jellyfish seems to walk a tightrope. Enough plasticity to rebuild, enough control to stay itself. And that tension raises a darker possibility. This isn't eternal youth. It's survival through surrender. The medusa stage, the swimming, reproducing adult, can be abandoned, sacrificed, in exchange for returning to a stage that can cling, feed, clone, and wait. In the ocean, waiting is power. A polyp can endure. A medusa is exposed. So perhaps this reversal is not a miracle. Perhaps it is an escape hatch, a way to survive the moment, even if it means giving up the adult body entirely. But if that's true, why don't more animals do it? Why would evolution allow such a loophole in one species and not in countless others? Into the sea, it actually lives in coasts, harbors, currents that carry it across oceans. We'll look at what immortality costs, and why the immortal jellyfish may be both more common and more limited than we like to imagine. The phrase immortal jellyfish makes it sound like a creature that has conquered death. But nature doesn't hand out victories without trade-offs. In the real ocean, life is not a controlled tank. There are predators, parasites, pollution, storms, and the immortal jellyfish is small enough to be swallowed without noticing. So the first truth is simple. It is not invincible. It's not immortal the way legends are. It's immortal the way a restart button is immortal. Useful only if the machine survives long enough to press it. Still, the ability matters, because it changes the rules of risk. When stress builds, When injury comes, when conditions become impossible, Turritopsis dohrnii can retreat to the polyp stage, a safer form, hidden on hard surfaces, capable of cloning itself. That means a single individual can, in theory, repeat its cycle many times. Medusa to polyp to medusa again. Not forever guaranteed, but potentially again and again. So what does that do in evolution? It suggests the species may be shaped not just by reproduction, but by resilience. In harsh or unpredictable environments, the ability to reset could be a lifeline. A bad season arrives? Reset. A sudden starvation? Reset. A torn bell from a predator's bite? Reset. The jellyfish doesn't need to win the battle. It only needs to survive the moment. But this raises another question. If resetting is so useful, why isn't it everywhere? The ocean is full of cnidarians. Most cannot do what this one does, at least not so completely. Some jellyfish species can show limited reversals in early stages or under specific laboratory conditions. But Turritopsis dohrnii appears uniquely reliable in its capacity to return from the medusa stage all the way back to polyp. That suggests something special in its biology or in its ecology. And ecology matters. This jellyfish is tiny, often only a few millimeters across. It lives in warm and temperate coastal waters, often associated with harbors and human-made structures. It may hitch rides in ballast water from ships, spreading across oceans. Small, overlooked, transported by global currents of commerce. So its world is unstable by default. Ports change, water's warm, pollution spikes, food availability shifts. A restart button in an unstable world is not luxury. It's strategy. Scientists studying Turritopsis dohrnii face a challenge. The myth is louder than the facts. Popular accounts often imply a creature that lives forever. But in the lab, the picture is more nuanced. Reversal is often triggered by stress, and stress is costly. If a jellyfish repeatedly resets, it may sacrifice opportunities to reproduce as a medusa. It may delay or lose mating events. It may spend more time as a cloning polyp, expanding locally but not dispersing genetically. Immortality, here, may come with a price. Less forward progress, more retreat, a life built around avoiding collapse, even if it means not fully living the stage you reached. And there's another constraint. Even if the jellyfish can reset indefinitely, it still carries the same DNA. It still accumulates damage from toxins, infections, random mutations. It may repair better than other species. It may manage cellular stress more effectively, but it is not free from entropy. It is simply unusually good at refusing the final step. That refusal is what makes it so compelling to human minds. Because we are creatures who cannot do this. We age in one direction. We accumulate scars in our tissues, errors in our cells, shortening telomeres, misfolded proteins. We can heal, but only within limits. So when we look at Turritopsis dohrnii, we see a biological riddle and a mirror. What is aging, really? Is it a law or a design choice? If some animals can reverse development, what mechanisms prevent others from doing the same? Researchers have begun probing these questions carefully because learning from the immortal jellyfish does not mean turning humans into jellyfish. It means understanding how cells maintain identity, how they lose it, how repair systems are regulated, how life can be flexible without turning cancerous. But every insight reveals how much we still don't know. And the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. Because the immortal jellyfish doesn't just suggest that death is avoidable. It suggests that life stages themselves are not as fixed as we assumed. From the lab bench to the planet. From one tiny jellyfish to the vast question it opens. Why does life, in most forms, accept aging at all? And what does it mean that, somewhere in the sea, a creature can refuse to play along? In the human imagination, immortality is a prize, a shining promise, a cure, a triumph over the oldest fear. But the immortal jellyfish offers something different. Not a victory, a loophole, a way to step sideways out of the ending. And when you watch it happen, A mature body collapsing into a cyst, then rising again as a polyp. It doesn't feel like fantasy. It feels like nature quietly admitting the story could have been written another way. Look closer, and the jellyfish becomes less like a miracle and more like a message from deep evolutionary time. A reminder that aging is not a single thing. There are animals that barely show signs of age for decades. There are plants that clone themselves across centuries. There are microbes that divide and divide and divide, turning time into a repeating pattern. Life has many relationships with time.
Animals.
We are the ones trapped in a particular version. Highly specialized bodies, complex organs, fragile coordination. We trade flexibility for performance. We build a body that can run, think, speak, remember, and in exchange, we accept a body that cannot easily rewrite itself. The immortal jellyfish does the opposite. It keeps the option open. When the adult form becomes too costly, it retreats to the simpler architecture. Not because it seeks eternal life, because it cannot afford a permanent death. And here is the unsettling part. If reversal exists, even in one corner of life, then the boundary between adult and young is not absolute. It is a state, a set of instructions being followed. And instructions can sometimes be changed. That idea is the foundation of modern biology. It's why scientists can reprogram cells into stem-like states in the lab, why they can coax tissues to regenerate, why they study animals that heal limbs, repair hearts, replace neurons. The immortal jellyfish sits among these wonders, but it pushes the question further. Not how do you heal, but how do you unbecome? How do you persuade a body to let go of what it is and become what it used to be? In the sea, this is not philosophy. It is chemistry. Proteins folding and unfolding, genes switching on and off, cells changing shape, purpose, allegiance. A living negotiation between stability and change. And we are only beginning to understand the terms. Even if we mapped every gene involved, the deeper mystery would remain. Why did this ability evolve here? Perhaps the conditions were just right. A tiny body, a risky lifestyle, a lineage with cellular plasticity, and a world where a retreat could pay off. Or perhaps the ability exists more broadly than we realize, hidden in species we haven't studied, triggered only by rare stressors in the wild. Because the ocean is vast and our attention is small, there's also a quieter, more sobering possibility. Immortality, in this form, is not a path upward. It is a cycle, a return. No accumulation of wisdom, no progress toward a grander self, just survival, resetting as a way to persist. And maybe that is the most honest form of immortality nature offers. Not an escape from death, but a method of postponing it again and again when the world allows. So the immortal jellyfish leaves us with a final image. A creature that can become young again, but only by abandoning the very body that made it adult. A reminder that every biological gift is shaped by cost. And yet, when we look at it, we can't help asking the forbidden question. If one animal can reverse its life stage, what else is possible? Is aging an unavoidable consequence of complexity, or a set of biological choices evolution made for most lineages? Could there be mechanisms hidden in the deep code of life that we have simply never learned to unlock safely? Somewhere in shallow coastal waters, a jellyfish smaller than your fingernail pulses through the dark. It drifts, it feeds, it is wounded, it resets, and in that silent reversal, it offers not a promise, but a mystery. What if time in biology is not a straight line? What if under enough pressure and with the right machinery, life can choose another direction? And if it can, why did it stop with a jellyfish?